TellyCast, the TV industry news review.
What's the story behind new SVOD aggregator ScreenHits TV? Will they move into original content? And how do you build up the courage to reach your goals in the TV business? This week, I'm joined by Rose Hulse, CEO of ScreenHits TV, and career coach Tracy Forsyth. It's all coming up on this week's TellyCast. My first guest on this week's show is Rose Hulse, CEO of the app-based streaming aggregator ScreenHits TV. Welcome to TellyCast, Rose. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing today, Justin?
I'm really well. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, we're going to talk about ScreenHits TV in a second. We'll get into the detail of it because it's a really interesting new player, I think, in the aggregation space. And that's certainly something that we're seeing a lot of growth and, a lot of movement towards this simplification, if you like, of all these different streaming services. But we'll come on to that in a second. So tell us about your background, first of all, Rose. You were a senior exec at Audio Network once upon a time, weren't you?
I was. I was there, and I was at Universal Pictures and Sundance. So, yeah, I've been in the space for a while.
Tell us about, your journey for setting up ScreenHits TV, because this is something that goes back a few years, doesn't it? It was originally a B2B platform.
Yes, it was. So, kind of just going back to my, my background, which was, in television sales or film sales and working for distribution production companies. I felt that at the time, back in 2011, there had to be a better way to sell content. We were all on the planes going to Cannes and Berlin, Berlinale, MIP TV, MIPCOM, Sundance. And it just, the follow-up in that process and sending out DVDs and FedEx boxes. Wow, I'm dating myself. But it was just really, arduous. And I thought there had to be a better way. And, there was YouTube at the time. There was Vimeo and Vivo. And so digital video was there. And I just didn't see why it hadn't transferred to the business side of buying and selling. Because at the end of the day, we were buying content that we needed to see. So I wanted to set up a platform where all the acquisition executives would be able to just go online somewhere, search for what shows were available in a given territory, watch that show in its entirety, and then be able to make an offer. And for the salespeople to be able to, see when somebody's actually watched the video for how long and answer any feedback. And that was to really speed up the whole process of buying and selling, and also cut down on the whole carbon footprint.
Of course. Yeah. Well, so I suppose it was one of the first online screening rooms or online content marketplaces, if you like. How was that? Because obviously some online content marketplaces are having a certain amount of success, but I think it's still a little bit marginalized. How was the reaction to that, going to Cannes and basically, convincing execs who were still very much rooted in the old style of buying and selling TV? And we're going back a few years now. How was that journey in convincing execs that actually they could be doing things in a much smarter way?
When we started, as you mentioned, we were one of the first in that space, and it was a big disruptor. And, we always came at it from a point where ScreenHits was developed in the mindset of that salesperson to actually help increase their overall revenues. But of course, some of the players that have been in the game for a long time were really focused on that one-to-one personal contact. And they felt that a platform that was an online marketplace would interfere in that, or they would lose their relationships or their contacts. And, we spent a very good amount of time going to a lot of the markets to explain how that doesn't happen and how it actually sits nicely alongside your sales efforts. It's like a enhanced sales force with video, so we started to slowly bring on players like E1 and Hasbro and, Caracol and Telemundo and NBC. And we started to really get all the major players over the first 4 years. And we started doing really big deals with companies like BBC and Channel 4. And, that's when it really got exciting because people were using it and they were buying hundreds of episodes. And we started to see a growth in some of the smaller territories where at the time, a lot of the big companies were cutting back their sales teams and the companies were doing a lot of restructuring. And so they didn't have the same manpower to be able to work on some of their third tier markets. And so having ScreenHits B2B in place at that time made sure that they weren't leaving money on the table.
That's where these online content marketplaces seem to be working when it comes to these smaller markets that aren't necessarily a priority for the big studios and don't necessarily warrant a salesperson to spend a week in that environment. And obviously now we all know we're trying to cut down our travel and our time. We're just trying to work smarter, aren't we? And this is where online content marketplaces are helping.
You know, the MIPComs and the MIP-TVs were getting very expensive. I mean, I've been in the game for a long time. And when you think about, you know, MTV that used to throw parties there that would be in the millions, and booth space were in the millions, and all the hotels and the food and the travel. And that actually could really help a person's department to bring on extra salespeople by not going to those events and finding different ways. And so, you know, I definitely think that, you know, there is a strong need for that. And I think some of the companies that are focusing on the smaller areas is going to be key. I think that the larger deals with the larger studios that happen because of the relationships, those will always be there and they will always handle those deals. But there's a lot of also back library content that they can easily sell without having to, you know, have someone full time really pushing that on a consistent basis, because they don't necessarily make a lot of money for certain shows in their library, but they add additional added value and revenue. So it's important to not ignore some of those shows that could be desired by people, because the sales team doesn't have time per se to go out and sell something from 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. And it's that long tail revenue, isn't it, really, for these businesses?
Mm-hmm.
So you pivoted as well, because obviously it was a B2B platform. Is it still a B2B platform, or because you pivoted to being a consumer service? Tell us about how that came about.
Yeah, so with our B2B marketplace, we did that for a few years, and we were seeing, you know, consistent, steady growth within that. And then we had a few of the larger studios that were not comfortable per se to go on a B2B platform that wanted our product. And so we ended up white labeling it to a few of the studios, one being Turner Broadcasting. And we developed their Turner VIP, and ScreenHits powered that. And so we ended up working with them on developing a lot of really unique products for, you know, pushing all of their channels. And one way that they wanted to utilize ScreenHits was to have a channel for each of their different services. So like Adult Swim and, you know, Cartoon Network and all the other ones, Warner Television. And so we did that for a while. And then during this time, we noticed that on our B2B platform, which is our main product, that people were using it less, a lot less. And we noticed a huge shift in our stats. And so when I contacted some of our key partners and just said, oh, I've noticed that you've been using it a bit less, just wanted to kind of find out what's going on within your company and what are the changes, or is there a reason that your pushing of your sales has gone down? And the first person I contacted was someone at Disney who we worked with. And they had mentioned to me that, you know, from pretty high up, they've been given like the mandate to kind of start pulling back some of their rights, because they were going to be creating a streaming platform to go direct to consumer. And we all know that now as Disney Plus. And we started to hear this across the board with like NBC, because they were going to be trying to get their rights back to create, you know, Peacock, and, you know, with Warner obviously doing HBO Max. So all this was starting to shift. So we knew way before a lot of people that there was going to be this huge industry shift towards direct-to-consumer streaming platforms and streaming apps. And so that was going to put a lot of pressure on our business, because if all the major players were going to be, you know, taking those rights back and having them and launching internationally with their own streaming services, where did that really leave our B2B marketplace? And so we decided to adapt and to change with our industry and to continue to provide a service with what we've created over those years, and to just continue to address some of the fragmentation that we knew was going to happen. So we knew that consumers were going to all of a sudden be inundated with amazing streaming services. We knew that some of the shows they liked watching on certain pay TV channels or on certain streaming services would possibly be moved to other ones, and where would they find those services? And you may not remember, but about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, you might have gone on to Amazon or to Netflix, and you would see a sign saying, oh, this is no longer available as of the 30th of September. And so this was all in the process of kind of moving everything over to the direct-to-consumer streaming apps. So we decided to take our tech, which was, an aggregator, because it was an aggregator of distribution companies and studios and channels and all this content that we put into one and provide it to the consumer. And that's how ScreenHits TV came about. And instead of, just kind of aggregating all the content, it was aggregating all of our streaming partners' content into one so the consumer can easily find out where it's gone to and to be able to get the most use out of their streaming services.
Got it. So do you continue to operate in the B2B space at all now, or is it just purely, ScreenHits TV is purely a consumer platform?
So we're a B2B, B2C, I would say. So we started off obviously as B2B with all of the studios and distribution companies, and we've maintained that B2B relationship. And so our consumer platform is really built to work with our B2B partners to try to help minimize churn, to ensure that their customers always see their content at the point of discovery, sharing important data with our partners. And we really use this in a B2B way. And then we also focus on the consumer and making sure that their experience in handling all these new streamers and their transition from pay TV to app TV is as smooth as possible.
So now I've downloaded ScreenHits TV.
Okay.
It's obviously pretty seamless, which is exactly what you're looking for in any sort of app TV model. First of all, I guess, changing from a digital service for the industry to a consumer service, from a user interface perspective, that's obviously quite a big leap, isn't it? Because you're almost acting as a gateway to Netflix and Disney Plus and Amazon and, some of the biggest digital businesses out there. Your platform has got to look great and has got to be seamless as well. So that must have taken a huge investment to begin with to create something that's going to look as good as it does.
Thank you for that. I think that, we've been really fortunate because ScreenHits TV, the consumer app that you see, is really based off of our previous development work that we've done all these years. And, we are constantly enhancing it, constantly making it better. And you actually, you make a really good point because we do come from the B2B mindset. And one thing that I was really, firm about was that I didn't want us to perhaps copy what is already out there, because what works for Netflix or what works for Amazon wasn't going to work for an aggregator because, they have a select amount of content that they aggregate and it works perfect. But when you're starting to aggregate SVOD platforms and live TV and AVOD platforms into one, it could become quite overwhelming if all you see is constant, key art, because you're now going through hundreds of thousands of content. So I did want to kind of keep a very simple, different structure to it. And that's why we introduced the TV guide, which you don't really see across streaming platforms, to try to help put it all together and maintain that brand with the content, because we don't believe in just kind of throwing all the content out there under a ScreenHits umbrella, because it's not our content, it's our partners' content. So we work really hard to ensure that the brand is always connected to the content and that brand is highlighted so the consumer can start to become familiar with the app TV channels as they had with paid channels over the years. So when they see Netflix, they know what type of content they're going to get. When they see HBO Max, they know what type of content they're going to get, et cetera. So this is kind of where we've been over the past year in trying to marry these elements together. And our next rendition of the app, which you'll see before Christmas, I think takes a really nice consumer approach and B2B approach and really putting it into one.
So I downloaded it, and one of the first things after signing up gave me the opportunity to sort of add a whole load of SVOD and AVOD services. So I added iPlayer, Disney Plus, Netflix, Channel 4, Amazon Prime Video, ITV, My5, UK TV Play, etc. So those choices, are those the services that are already available in the UK, or can it determine what I've got on my phone? Because I downloaded this on my phone.
Yeah, so they're available in this territory. So what ScreenHits does is that we go out and we make partnerships with all the leading streaming partners. We'll never have 100 or 300, fast channels or AVOD or SVOD platforms on our system. It doesn't make sense for our partners, and it doesn't make sense for the consumer. So we go into every territory. We look at all the streamers that are available, and then we pick the selection of the best in the market. And then we do a deal, and then we put them on our platform. And they're available for all consumers to add or to not add. So while I would love to take credit and say it recognizes what's on your phone and it adds them, you actually have the control of that, and we don't go into your personal details to that extent.
And when it comes to where ScreenHits is available, it's obviously in the UK, where I am now, but it's also available in the States as well, isn't it?
Yes, the US and in Germany at this moment, and we're about to launch in the next 4 weeks in a few more territories.
And can you give us a sense of how many subscribers you've got and what that consumer business model is?
It's free for people to use on the website. We never charge people anything for that. And it gets them basically the basic, integration of your existing streaming services, that you can organize everything, see what's available on the platform. And then we have a basic subscription of 99p, which basically gives you the technical benefits of the product. You're able to see what your friends are watching without having to ask. You're able to connect it to your Fire TV. So you can use your mobile phone to connect it to your Fire TV and watch it on your TV. You're able to get access to some premium partners such as Lionsgate here in the UK. As well as like in Germany, we're working with a company called Circus, which has a lot of the great ITV content. And then we also, have other unique, like live TV with Bloomberg, we've just signed up. So you get access to all of these additional features. You get the child protection pen, which lets you block out any content above 13 plus for your children across all the different streamers with just one pen. And you don't have to worry about putting out a pin within all 15 different SVODs. You could just do one and it blocks it. So these are the additional benefits that you get with the pound subscription. And you also get discounts to bundles that are coming out this month, where you can get cashback offers on some of the premium services, and then just really amazing discounts on adding additional platforms like an IndieFlix or Discover Film or Lionsgate content for £3.40. So this is some of the benefits of that.
Yeah, so tell me how many subscribers there are.
Last year we had about 1.2 million users. We've had about 500,000 plus people sign up for subscriptions. That number is obviously increasing, and we're going to do a new announcement, a press announcement in the coming weeks, because it's a very nice number. We came out of beta and we've launched our mobile and tablet app and our TV apps that are coming out. So that's made a huge difference. And, I would say that we are going to exceed our subscription targets by the end of this financial year for us.
And so when it comes to what platforms, so it's available it's on desktop, it's obviously on iOS. What other platforms is it available on in those territories?
That's it. So it's available on, as you said, iOS, tablet, mobile, and on desktops, and also Fire TV. You will be able to connect it. So there's a companion app. So you'll be able to download the Amazon Fire TV, and you'll be able to search for things on your phone. There's an icon which lets you connect and pair, and then you're able to start playing from all of your different platforms automatically. The video loads on the Fire TV, which is great. So you don't have to worry about your remote control.
Do you perceive this as being something that's very much mobile first as an experience, or has adoption on mobile been much greater than it has on desktop? That would be my guess, but maybe I'm wrong.
We came out with the mobile app this late in August this year. So people, there was a definite thirst for a product like this, and our web traffic was incredible, more than we had expected, with minimal marketing, because obviously the first year we were more or less in beta and just really working through, the growing pains and getting things right and working with our partners and making all of that wonderful metadata work together in a seamless way. And we just saw a huge uptake on that. And we're now seeing, a lot of people converting over and transferring over to, use it on their tablet and mobile, which is a beautiful experience. I would say that this industry will always be TV based. So I think that, our new connected TV app for Android TVs and Android mobile phones that are coming out next month will be a welcome gift for a lot of our users, because, people, they go home, they sit down, they want to turn the TV, they want to find something to watch. And while it's when you're kind of sifting through your phone and you want to see what your friends are watching and you want to see what's out and you want to watch later tonight, it's a really great way for discovery, the phone. But I think when you want to sit down and actually watch something, you really want to be in front of a laptop or a TV, a bigger screen.
Now, there's a few different players in this area. We know Roku, we know Stroom are involved in this business as well. I guess the question is, you must have your own unique strategy. So Roku's obviously moving more and more into original content. Is that something that you'd ever do? And what is it that you're looking to offer through ScreenHits TV that your competitors don't?
Well, I don't really think Stroom is a competitor, because I think, Stroom is working with the best of the rest, as they kind of say. They kind of take a selection of content from different streamers that they feel are not big enough, and they put them all into their platform, and they charge like a gym pass kind of credits to watch a show. That's just not what we do. We aggregate the biggest streamers in the world, right? So we don't alter their catalogs. We don't take a selection of things and curate it. We literally take everything that's available, and we will always redirect and promote our partners and kind of drive them back. So I think that we're different in that sense, because we're aggregating the SVOD platforms that people use on a daily basis that they will continue to always use. And then we have a selection of some niche platforms as well. So I don't think so. With Roku, I would say that, right now you need to have a device. ScreenHits is device agnostic. You don't need a device. You don't need a set-top box. You don't need a TV. If you want to watch it on TV, you do, but you don't need a specific TV. Like, you don't need to have a Sky Glass, for example, or you don't have to have a satellite dish, or you don't have to have any device. You literally just need to have access to Wi-Fi, and you can connect that on whatever device that you have access to be able to stream that. So I think that's one difference between us and Roku. Roku also takes kind of everything in the universe of SVODs and fast channels and AVOD. So they have hundreds and hundreds of SVOD platforms that they have available for people to discover and to find. And again, that's not us. We are curated. We'll never take more than 50 SVOD, AVOD, fast channels, live TV channels on our platform, because we feel that that's not great for our B2B partners. And we also feel that it's very overwhelming to the consumer, because if you want to watch something in comedy, you don't need 20,000 comedy shows coming at you. You want to basically look at your services and your channels and build that out for yourself and find out what's available in those. And that's kind of the approach that we're taking. And no, we will never have originals. We are an aggregator for our business partners. It is not in our desire to create original programming and trying to become a channel and compete with our partners. So for us, our main goal and our main mission is to ensure that our partners' content is always available to the consumer at the point of discovery. That's kind of how we sit in that area.
And you're looking basically to partner with the biggest players in the market, and obviously your business model is based on scale, but also it's about simplicity, isn't it? It's about purely organizing your SVOD services for the consumer, which is obviously consumer problem is, we all know we've got hundreds of apps on our iPhones and more and more apps on our connected TV. So it's a simplicity play, isn't it, at scale?
I think it is, and I think, YouTube took the approach as, put as much content as you want, no limitations, but then the actual person who had that channel had to spend the marketing to, drive people to their channel to find it in the sea of all of this content. And we don't want our platform to be that way. We really want our platform to, like, as you mentioned, to simplify and to enhance our partners' content through data and information, and to not have it buried under a sea of content. I personally don't think that it's fair to the consumer, and I don't think it's fair for our partners. And we want to elevate as much as we can for everybody that we work with on the B2B and B2C side, a nice, easy platform. And believe me, I don't want you, Justin, to go into ScreenHits and search for horror and find a million horror shows and confuse you even more. I want to deconfuse you.
Yeah, well, it certainly does that. I mean, the layout is really interesting. Half the screen is on a hot series of this month, and then the bottom half of the screen, I've got my channels. I've got my iPlayer, Disney Plus, and it's asking me if I want to watch Cruella. It's asking me if I want to watch Vigil or Holby City or Sex Education or Adam and Joe. I mean, it's very neat. So congratulations on that. It does a very good job of simplifying, and we're seeing so many new SVODs and new AVOD channels and new direct to consumer offerings from the studios launching every week, it seems. So wish you all the very best with this, Rose. I think, obviously you've made some very big strides in a very short amount of time. So we'll look forward to hearing more about how things develop at ScreenHits.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you like it, and I'm happy that you've downloaded it. So you have to add me as a friend as well, because I have some really great shows that I like watching that you can discover through my platform.
And now it's time in the show when Rose gets to nominate her story of the week, the TV industry news that's caught her eye in the past 7 days. What's your story of the week, Rose?
I would say the transition from pay TV to kind of app TV, and how these are throwing money at these very early streaming services. I don't know if you've recently read, but Marquee TV, for example, just raised, I think, £6 million or £7 million from two VC investors, and they've been around a very short period of time. They're focusing on classical live performances, Broadway theater, and it's just a huge time and opportunity for people that are creating these niche channels to kind of come into that space, because that's an amazing investment to be made into that. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of those announcements coming up, and the financial world really supporting this new age of the future of television.
And now it's time in the show when Rose gets to nominate her hero of the week. Who's your hero of the week, Rose?
My hero of the week is this Oscar-nominated lady called Cynthia Erivo. She was the star of a film called Harriet, and I never had seen her work before, and I was completely moved and touched by it. And I think that the character that she played in Harriet, for Harriet Tubman, really inspired a lot of people. It inspired me, and it's what filmmaking's about and acting's about. And wow, it's incredible. So if you haven't seen Harriet, which is now available on Netflix, I highly suggest that you do. So she is my hero of the week.
We'll put a link in the episode description to the trailer on Netflix. And we'll also put a link in the episode description to screenhits.tv, so you can go and have a look at the app yourselves. And Rose, what are you telling to get in the bin this week? The
parking warden. I was just at a meeting, and as I was coming out, I got a parking ticket, so I'm not really happy about that.
No, all right. No.
That can go in the bin this week along with my parking ticket, but I think I'll have to pay it. So, but I'm not really happy about that. I was literally 5.5 minutes past my time.
My wife has just returned from Devon. She's returned at the same time that a speeding fine came through as well. So I'm not going to do the MP thing, and I'm gonna have to be very honest and give her the points. There we are. So I'm going to stick that in the bin as well.
I know, right? It's just like, I hate when that happens. And my husband does this all the time, because he takes my car and then he will get a speeding ticket. He's like, that wasn't me. I go, yes, it was. It wasn't me. And then I have to go on, and they have like the extra pictures, and I was like,
yeah, that way lies trouble. That way does lie trouble. Anyway, Rose, thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Justin.
And now it's time in the show to welcome back career coach Tracy Forsyth. Tracy, it's been a while since we've spoken to you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Lovely to be here again.
Absolutely. Great to have you on. And now you've recently established a new thing called Coaching Corner. Tell us a little bit about Coaching Corner.
Well, Coaching Corner, I just thought I get asked a lot of questions as a coach and mentor, and a lot of the questions come from people who think they're the only one that feels that way. And so I decided that I was going to start a Coaching Corner, a weekly Coaching Corner, which is just going to be a 30-minute broadcast, as it were, on my LinkedIn, my Fast Track to Fearless YouTube channel, etc., where I just answer questions that people have got about their careers, about career obstacles, how to tackle things as they grow and progress through their careers. And everybody thinks they've got individual problems that only apply to them, but actually they don't. I hear some of the same ones come up time and time again. So I thought it would just be useful to be able to tackle common problems and give advice and tips and wisdom where I've got it, so that everybody can benefit.
That sounds great. And we've talked in the past about imposter syndrome and a few other methods and tactics to address that. So have you got any questions into your coaching corner yet?
Yes, exactly. So, but the very first question came from a lady called Emily. And she said that she'd been to see a panel talk with a really inspirational speaker who'd mentioned that people need to find their courage. And so Emily's question to me was, what is the best way to find your courage on repeat when we so often can get easily discouraged and derailed? So it's really about, how do you bounce back? How do you keep finding that courage when you are suffering from knockbacks? And I think that was such a good one. So that's the one that I'm going to answer today.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the old sort of greasy pole, isn't it? Particularly in the TV industry, people, get to certain levels and maybe they don't get that promotion. They get overseen for whatever raise or whatever it might be. So I think it's very familiar to everybody.
I think so. Definitely. So this is what I think about it. And it would be great to know what you think and, what your viewers think. But one of the things I think is that courage often comes when you know and feel what you're doing is purposeful and meaningful for you. If you think about those Hollywood movies when the chips are down and the hero is kind of like really floundering, often what really sparks them is knowing that what they're trying to do, what they're endeavoring to do is the right thing to do, or it just means a lot to them. So I really feel that courage on repeat, finding courage on repeat is just getting back in touch with whether what you're trying to do is really purposeful and meaningful for you, that it is the right thing to do, not the right thing for somebody else, but the right thing for you, that it will have an impact and an outcome that you find gratifying. So I think that finding that courage is, you're not going to find that courage if you're trying to force yourself to do something you're half-hearted about. Really, really difficult to try and muster up the energy and the willpower to do something that you're half-hearted about. So just examine what it is you're trying to do. Check in with yourself. Has it got purpose? Does it mean a lot? Will the outcome be satisfying and gratifying for you? Make sure that is in place. And I find that courage, really, a boost to find that extra courage will come.
It's like the righteous path, isn't it? It's following your own path that you believe in. That sounds very religious, but it's more of a Tarantino quote. But it's about you sticking on, right? It's just keeping on, and sometimes it can be sheer bloody mindedness. But if you know in your heart of hearts that you're right, in terms of, this is really what I want to do. I'm really engaged with this particular subject or this particular job, and I really want to get to this point. You hear many people saying that, just focus on what you really believe in and what you do, and it will come to you.
Yes. And it brings me on to my next point about this, because Emily's question was about how to find courage on repeat when you're knocked back. And I think the energy and resilience that is needed to find that courage, I think, comes when you are honest about what makes you thrive and what doesn't. If you think about Superman and his relationship with kryptonite, remember kryptonite was that, like, Superman was extremely strong unless he was surrounded by that crystal called kryptonite. I think there was even a planet called Krypton where he was just he was rendered useless. His powers were rendered useless. Yep. So if you need to find that courage on repeat, just have a look around you, feel and think about what or who is the kryptonite in your life that may be draining your energy and your resolve to carry on. Now, kryptonite, metaphorically can take the form of what you're doing. If you really, really want to get that script written, but you've actually got like loads of household chores draining you and other responsibilities, then take a good, honest look at that. Can you do something about the things that drain you in order for you to have the energy to do the things that really are purposeful and meaningful for you? And I think kryptonite can come in the form of people as well. We all know that in our journeys to wherever we're going, there are naysayers along the way. They might be actual live people who are discouraging or not supportive. They might be our inner critics internally, just saying, you're never going to do it. You're never going to do it. Well, so just be aware of the people, external or inner, who are your kryptonite, and whether you can remove them or distance them from you in your life or not. Just be aware of the impact that they have on you, and the impact that they have on that energy and resilience, and try to surround yourself with those inner champions, either inner champions or real life people who will champion, support, comfort, and encourage you to carry on. So I think, the energy and resilience to find that courage, really comes from that awareness of who you've got around you and what you've got around you that either makes you thrive or wilt. And my last point here, Justin, is that it's that saying, you cannot pour from an empty cup. We all experience knockbacks, and we need the time and the self-compassion to recover, restore, and regenerate. I always say, we sometimes expect ourselves to run like Formula One cars without ever stopping for a pit stop. And what's more, we treat ourselves like a knackered old tractor and expect ourselves to accelerate and get back on the track at full pelt. It ain't gonna happen. If you want to find that courage on repeat, you cannot expect just to press a button and for it to pop up. You got to nourish yourself. You got to recharge your batteries. You've got to just restore. So whatever form that takes, whether it's reflection, whether it's regrouping, whether it's actually time out, whether it's finding support or finding a friendly person who's going to give you a boost, whatever it is, don't expect it's just going to happen just on its own. So there we go. That's my version of what's the best way to find courage on repeat when we get knocked back. So know and feel, just check in with your purpose. Is what you're going after purposeful and meaningful for you? Will the outcome be satisfying and gratifying to you? And then just think about the energizers and drains around you, whether it's internal, external. Distance yourself from the drains, really kind of dial up the energizers. And lastly, you cannot pour from an open cup. Don't treat yourself like a knackered old tractor and expect yourself to run like a Formula One car.
Wise words. Kick out the kryptonite. That's what we want.
Yeah.
All right. Tracy, thank you so much. And we'll put a link in the episode description, because you're also doing discovery session chats, aren't you?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Just a reminder that I do one-to-one executive coaching. My particular forte is obviously senior leaders in the creative industries. And if anybody wants to have a chat with me about what that entails, either head to my website, fasttracktofearless.com, and you can find a link to book in what's called a discovery call with me. So that's just a short chat. So we can have a chat about what you're after and whether I'm the person to help. Or I think Justin is going to put something in the link.
That's right. Episode description. You can find a link to your course. So
brilliant.
Thank you, Tracy. Great to have you on again. I look forward to having another coaching corner session with you at some point soon.
Excellent. Thanks, Justin. Take care.
Well, that's about it for another week's TellyCast. As always, thanks a lot for listening. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the show and share it with friends and colleagues. And why not follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter? TellyCast was edited by Ian Chambers and recorded in London. Next week, we have a crime special with Dougray Scott, Irving Welsh, and Richard Tulk-Hart as they talk me through the making of the new BritBox adaptation of Irving's novel. Until next Thursday, as always, stay safe